Okay. Now, we hear about a form of yoga called Hatha Yoga. The word Hatha Yoga, or the word Hatha, represents, is speculated to come from an African word called Hathor, whose correct pronunciation is Heteru. And Hathor, or Heteru, was the goddess of the moon and the sun. And so, in Hatha Yoga, we talk about the idea of the left and right nostrils. The left nostril representing the sun, which is an expansive energy, and the right nostril representing the moon, which is a contractive energy. Okay? And all of this is going to become a little bit more clear as we go along. Now, here is a picture of Yirser. And this is a quote I found in my research. I can't see.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it for me.
From Ethiopia, he, Osiris, passed through Arabia, bordering upon the Red Sea, as far as India. He built many cities in India, one of which he called Nysa, willing to have remembrance of that Nysa in Egypt, where he was brought up.
Okay, so this is saying that in the ancient Kemetic text, they're saying that Yirser, who was the founder of Kemetic civilization, he was like the first one to establish civilization, meaning he taught people how to grow food, agriculture, how to do animal husbandry, how to take care of the land. He taught them the various rituals that they needed to do to keep themselves in tune spiritually, that he established colonies in what you would call India. And so that civilization spread from Africa, from ancient Egypt or Kemet, into what we would call India today. Here, what you're seeing is a chair, which was in the tomb of Tutankhamun. And when this exhibit now, you know, Kemetic yoga has kind of become more and more popular around the country and around the world. People's awareness of it has really increased. But Kemetic yoga, the awareness of Kemetic yoga originally, the re-emergence of Kemetic yoga, like many things, started in Chicago. When this exhibit, and King Tut exhibit, came to Chicago in the 1970s. And with my teacher, Dr. Yirser Ra Hotep, we saw this chair, and we figured out this is yoga. And these symbols and the different glyphs on this chair represent what we would call yogic principles. So, on your, this is an illustration of that same chair. And what you see is you see a figure. His name is Shu, S-H-U. Shu represents breath. Breath in yoga means life force. Shu is in a pose. This pose opens up the ankles. It opens up the knees. The spine is twisting. The cervical vertebrae of the spine is turning. All of this position is stimulating the movement of life force, movement of energy. It's stimulating the digestive organs. It's stimulating the heart. It's stimulating the various endocrine glands in your body, such as your thyroid gland, your pineal gland is in your brain. At the top of his head, he has a sun disk. That sun disk represents one of the 7 primary chakras in the body. The sun disk represents the crown chakra, which corresponds to our highest level of consciousness. The 2 serpents on each side of that sun disk represents those 2 opposite strands of energy. In yoga, those 2 strands of energy that corresponds to the left and right nostril, the moon and the sun, are called nadis, N-A-D-I-S. And so this symbol that we're looking at, it represents the concept that there are 2 opposite energies that cause us to be alive. The life force that makes up our body is composed of 2 basic energies. Just like you have 2 currents of energy, like when you turn a light switch on, you have a positive and negative charge. When they touch together, you get a current, and that current makes the light come on. And so the same thing operates in our bodies. And so you see that these 2 serpents are balanced. That balance represents the fact that you have to have balance between those two opposite energies in order for you to have the proper functioning of your mind and your body. And so these yoga movements and postures, when done with correct breathing, helps to facilitate the opening of those energy channels. Those energy channels can become clogged up because of negative thoughts, stress. They can become clogged up because we don't eat the right foods. They can be clogged up because we have negative thoughts and emotions and so on and so forth. So part of the purpose of having movements, postures, and breathing in association with yoga is to help not just the physical body to become open, but to help that energy system. I'm going to show you more examples. That sun is at the top of the head also. When you see religious art, when you see saints and different people like that who have those halos on the top of their head, this is where they got that from. The halo, the word halo just means sun. It's a way of saying sun. So the sun disk, that energy is at the top, is at the crown of the head. And I wish I could make this bigger, but I went to Kemet this past summer and went into some places I'd never been able to get into before. But if you look right here where the pointer is, back here, you see a person standing on his head right there, right? He could either stand on his head or he's walking on the ceiling. This is at a place called Beni Hassan, where they have murals on the wall showing the martial arts. And one of the things I wanted to share with you, to help to illustrate the Africanness of yoga and many other things, is that martial arts also originated in Africa. The same things that we call kung fu started in Africa. Now the rooms where those particular illustrations are that really show, like what you're seeing on some of these illustrations are what you would call wrestling, grappling. But the rooms where they're actually showing people doing the actual punches and kicks and focusing, different types of blows at different, points in the body, that was in a room where they wouldn't let us go into that room. And even for me to take these pictures, I was at great risk because there was a guy with a machine gun telling me every time he figured out that I was taking pictures, because I was holding the camera like down here, and he could hear the little clicking, right, because I had the flash on. But every time he heard the little clicking, I don't know why this thing was on by itself. He kept telling me, stop that, so they were very aggressive in this area of Egypt. They didn't like so-called Westerners, even though, we're not really Westerners. They don't like Westerners being there. So this is, part of that room where you see these illustrations. Like I said, there's a couple of places, there was a couple of tombs where these illustrations are on the wall that we weren't able to get to. And this is part of a complex which was built by a pharaoh named Amenhotep III. And Amenhotep was from the 12th dynasty, which was the Middle Kingdom. So if you know your ancient Kemetic history, you know that there was an old kingdom, and then there was an intermediate period where there was a lot of chaos, and then the dynasty from which Amenhotep III came from, they reestablished the order. Okay, and he was a very, I call him a stone cold warrior, because he was a person who did a lot of conquest and really pushed out a lot of the different enemies that had invaded into Kemet. What you're seeing here is from one of the temples we went to over the summer, and you're seeing what that is like